Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today is Self-Care Friday again, but it's a very special Self-Care Friday because for the very first time, I have a guest with me, an expert, and her name is Winifred Ling. Winifred is a couples therapist and a relationship coach. So she obtained her second upper honors degree in psychology from the National University of Singapore, and she has more than 17 years of experience in working with individuals. She has developed and conduct workshops in the area of mental health, relationship, parenting, emotional intelligence, mindfulness and compassion, and also at different applications of positive psychology. So her passion is to work with individuals and couples to pursue the relationship of their dreams and to create awareness of the importance of early intervention in relationship. So if you want to find out more about Whitney, you can go to winifredling.com. So the reason why I invited her to come to be our guest is because I've been hearing a lot of comment from couples about being in close proximity with their partner all the time. Sometimes they have some challenges with regards to that. So I thought this is a good area for us to seek more support. So naturally, I went to an expert, and Winifred and I, we are actually postgraduate classmate for positive psychology. So I'm really thrilled that she's joining us here. So now let's welcome Winifred.
Hello.
Ta-da!
Hello, everybody.
Okay, so if you are here, please say hi to us. Give us a thumbs up so that we know you are here. Okay, so in the meantime, Winifred, would you like to share a little bit about yourself?
Okay. As Joy has introduced me, I'm a couple therapist, and I'm also a mom to a 7-year-old, very cute daughter. So my passion is also in like how to be the best parent that I can be to my child, and like in helping other parents as well. So family is always a very important unit. So the work that I do with couples is also in the direction to hope that other couples can also have, and families can also have a flourishing life, as well as like the family of their dreams in that sense. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so now we're going to get started with the interview. And since this is Self-Care Friday, I thought let's start with a little bit of going inside with the singing bowl. So we're just going to have one quiet moment with the singing bowl. Okay, so yeah,
Sure.
welcome to close your eyes. Hey, okay, welcome back. I needed that. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's start with a fun fact about you. We need to tell us something that most people doesn't know.
Okay. Well, I won't consider myself a very OCD person. I'm actually quite relaxed about things, but there's certain things that I'm quite particular about. And one of them is actually folding my umbrella. Like after I use the umbrella, I find it like I really have to like make sure that it's nicely folded, and then I put it in my bag. So if it is like messy, it kind of like irks me. So that's the most OCD part of me, because generally I'm not a very OCD person. I'm quite sloppy in some sense. But yes, umbrella must be neat and in order. Bet you
I'm
didn't
not
know about
sure.
that about me, right?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if I should confess that I feel the same. Okay, so let's say a big hello as well to Elizabeth. Thanks for joining in, Liz. I know you were waiting, so thanks for the patience. We finally sorted
Yay!
the technical part. Okay, so let's go straight for the meat. So my first question for you is, what are the usual challenges that couples encounter that has been heightened because of this lockdown?
Yeah, okay. The one that we can always see is if you do not always spend like 24/7 with your couple, then this is going to be a challenge. I mean, for those people who are maybe working in close relationship or have partnership with the spouse, it's actually probably like business as usual. But for those couples who actually have spouse who travel a lot or you're pretty independent, being together all the time can create a lot of conflict because you may not be used to each other's rhythm. And I think that is one of the greatest challenge for for couples who are working in that sense, to how to get used to having the other person a lot more in the house. And how do you avoid, like, maybe there's certain annoyances that you might have in terms of working style? Because like for myself, I'm usually working out of the clinic, so I'm usually, and during this period of time I do have to do some teleconsulting. And so, we need to find space, and sometimes it is just a matter of like trying to adjust to each other again. Yeah. So
True.
the adjustment can be stressful, and if you have difficulty in expressing yourself, then that can become a conflict. If you keep the annoyance inside and then and not express it, if you do not have the skill to express it clearly, then that can accumulate, and then it may like ended up in an explosion out of the blue,
Mm,
for both sides, right? So that would be something about communication, about the space that you need and all.
mm. So, besides this that you have mentioned, are there any other new challenges that has arisen because of the lockdown?
Yes, and especially for couples who may have difficulty with each other. So now, sometimes what some of my couple tells me is going to work is a distraction. And so being forced to see each other all the time is going to create a problem, because then there is no space from each other. So like being away and at work is some way of managing or regulating the emotion. So I am particularly concerned for couples who are having issues with each other to begin with, because this enforced time lockdown with each other can be really, really stressful, and more so if they have young children. And then that there's like you are really spread very, very thin between work, between caring of the kids, and then between managing your own emotion if you already have like ongoing issues with your partner.
Mm. So I'm very curious from your what you perceive about the current situation. You think like because of what's going on, is there more couples, like drifting away from each other, or is it more couples that has become closer? Because I seem to hear both views, and I can't
Yeah.
really make a mind about it. Yeah.
It can be both, you see. It can be both, and it really depends on the relationship of the couple as a baseline. If they have a good relationship, or if it, let's say couple one, they don't spend a lot of time, but they are actually happy being with each other, then this is a beautiful time to just connect with each other. You have more time maybe just to hang out and do things, and then but so this is the best case scenario. And then you have another couple who have a lot at hands, like they may have a stressful job, and then having the partner like is actually a distraction, so that they may not be able to work. So for those couples who are more who have stressful job and like young kid and more stresses, then it will be more challenging, because you need to manage your partner, and then the expectations that you might have, like I'm working, you're working, we're both working, then why do you expect me to be the one taking care of the child? I mean, that kind of a conflict may arise also. So it depends on how they are as a starting point, I would say, and then how they perceive this time of being together. Is it stressful, or is it actually a welcome change? So I have couple who are happy about it. I say, oh, we have more family time now, and then we can like do family things together. But then on the other hand, there are also couples who are like say, oh, I can't wait for this to be over so that I can go back to a workplace where that could be my sanctuary, that could be my alone time, where I can just be focused on what I have to do. Yeah. So there's kind of like no straight answers. It really depends on where the couples are as a starting point.
Mm. So
Mm.
far, what I'm hearing is some of the main challenges is like what is the nature of the couple's relationship even before the lockdown,
Yes.
their their communication style, their expectation about each
Mhm.
other, and also like the job expectation. If it's a demanding job where you cannot have distraction, that plays a part as
Yeah.
well.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes.
okay. So then, despite the constant close proximity, how can couples still continue to nourish their relationship?
It starts with intention. I think if they have the intention to nourish the relationship, then
Mm,
you will be able to do it. But without the intention, you may just find like you may be focused and start on, oh my gosh, yourself so annoying, annoyance. And so I would say that we would have to cultivate gratitude and say, okay, now that we are both at home, how can we make the best of the situation? So conversation around that could be helpful. You may want to like create some kind of a ritual connection, simple ones. I mean, given the limited bandwidth, I'm assuming you have limited bandwidth, like you could say like, okay, maybe let's just check in on how we are feeling. So that can be a helpful ritual and say, oh, what are you feeling today? On a like use the emotional wheel and say, oh, maybe I'm feeling somewhat tense, and then on a scale of 0 to 10, how tense are you? So that is a way to just engage with each other, to just check in. And I will also say that if you are feeling really, really stressed, this may not be the right time for you to go deep into conversation,
mm,
because you may not have the bandwidth to do so, and
mm,
it's easier for you to get triggered and be angry, and that the possibility of that conversation escalating into a fight is also higher. So it is also a time to be kind to yourself and say, do I really need to address this right now, or can this wait till both of us have a bit more bandwidth, we're both a bit more calm, so that we can have a more productive conversation. So it's also very important to realize what you can handle and not handle during this period of time, and be honest about it.
mm. So, first and foremost, we need to have that self-awareness at some level of knowing where are we right now. What is our first need? Is it to attend to ourselves, or is it to have that conversation with our partner? Are we ready?
Right.
Do we have that
Mm.
emotional capacity to do that right now? To have that check-in with ourselves first, and then have
Mm.
some kind of a check-in ritual with our partner. Um,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
as if you've been watching our Self-Care Friday, then you know that for all our Be Well series, we always start with the emotion wheel because I want to drill that into everyone into a habit.
Yes.
The emotion wheel is such a useful tool for you to just pick a word and a more accurate word to label your feelings for your own sake and for the sake of the people around you. Really a
Yeah.
useful tool. So I would encourage you to Google for feelings wheel, save it on your phone for easy access. As I always encourage, in fact, print it out, paste it on the fridge so
Mm.
that you can
Yeah.
whole family can have a check-in together. So, at the risk
Yes.
of sounding naggy, I'm going to say that again. Use the feeling wheel is so useful.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you are pushing for it. Preach on, girl. Continue to preach.
That will change my
Yeah.
career. Okay, so what about for yourself personally? What have you found personally useful for your relationship?
I think doing fun things together is important. Just like so what my husband and I have been doing, we've been like connecting or watching musicals, because that's what is available. So we have like dedicated time, like meaning like on weekends, I try not to do any work, so that there is some kind of clear boundaries. So
Mm,
weekend is just focused on like really family time and couple time. So we bond over watching musicals or like some Netflix show and things like that, and also just try to really focus on the in relationship, so that we can just enjoy each other's company and have quality time. And because I have a little 7-year-old, it's easy to also just have fun together. So we have more board games, we play Monopoly, or like we do Uno, to just kind of like engage with each other in the traditional and old-fashioned way, rather than just be on our own devices. You see, so it's really be conscious about wanting to spend time with each other. Plus, I mean, to be honest, I'm kind of like an introvert, so I do need more time for myself. So I need to actually be mindful and say, oh, I don't lock myself out in the room too much, because that's my natural tendency to actually uh, find time and like, okay, this is family time. So but then dedicate some time for myself, where I can maybe slow down and read, or like do my own thing, like meditate or prayer or something like that. Yeah, to nourish
mm.
my own soul. Yeah. So there are things that I do together as a couple, but I also do self care, like really just for myself, which I also think is very important.
Mm. Since you mentioned about introverts, so that got me curious. Do you think there's any difference between an introvert and extrovert couples during this lockdown?
Oh yeah, I mean, like for the introverted one, I imagine that it might be harder for them because they need a more external stimulus to get them going, to be excited and all that. And if you have like an introvert and an extrovert, then that's gonna be more because you will need to the partner who is the extroverted partner will want the introvert partner to feel that gap, right? To like kind of like feel the energy,
Oh,
so that
yeah.
could potentially be an issue because then the introverted partner will be like, oh my gosh, I need my own space. Maybe you should go and have friends to hang out with, but now you cannot go out. So maybe you
Exactly.
go and have your Zoom party or whatever, your board game and things like that. So it's also understanding your partner, like in each other, right? I mean, like, what is your love language? What do you need in moments like this? So clear and open communication is really important so that you are able to say like, okay, really cannot engage with you right now. Maybe if you want to, I'm fine with you having a Zoom party with your friends, kind of a thing, and maybe we can connect later on when I'm feeling a little bit better. So be upfront about your needs too, rather than, or maybe I force myself to do it, and then after that you don't feel so good and you lashed out. I did this for you because you wanted me to do it. So the gift that you gave is not from the heart anymore because it was attached with some kind of an expectation.
Mm. And when you say that, the first thing that came to my mind was, well, NVC.
Yes,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
violent communication where you are clear
Mm,
about your own needs and then you express it and then you make requests, right? Yeah.
mm, mm. So I used to have, I'm actually introvert, which most people might not believe. I'm actually introvert. I need time out. I cannot, I can only last so long, then I have to back off. I have to go back into my little cave. So I used to have a partner who's very extrovert, and it was exhausting trying to keep up with him, like
Hmm.
going out,
Yeah, yeah.
party, social gathering every weekend. We must do that, and we go party after party. Saturday there's party, Sunday also party. So it was really exhausting trying to catch up and kind of like make him happy. So I can imagine in this lockdown, this kind of challenges for a couple who have similar dynamics, the challenge is really amplified. And
Yes, yeah.
yeah, so because of that experience, you can imagine that the introvert partner is going to have a lot of challenge, and you might be feeling stressed that I need to entertain my partner now because I
Yes,
can't
yeah.
he can't even go out with his friends, so the responsibility is on me. So I guess also knowing where to draw the line for your own self-care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and be comfortable in expressing your own boundary also. And
Mm,
that, I mean, like in I think in a good relationship or healthy relationship, that we need to be respectful of each other's boundaries.
mm.
Yeah.
So far, a big part of our conversation, I see the aspect of communication. It keeps arising, and knowing how to communicate effectively with your partner and being upfront about your needs. But I think in like personally, I think it's easier said than done. Certain things like we don't know how to approach open the topic. So do you have any tips on that?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's a good one actually. Like a lot of time when my couples come to and see me, they feel that with having a third person mediating it make them more open in sharing because sometimes they may not feel safe in sharing because they are unsure of the reaction of the partner. So I think that if you can create some kind of a rule, like, okay, let's have a rule around this, like, we want it to be as open as possible. So whatever emotion that we have to learn to accept it. Not easy to do always. That's why, there are still people who needs to come and see a therapist or a relationship coach to moderate that conversation. But to have some kind of boundary and say that, we want to be authentic because when you are not authentic, when you're not true to what you are truly feeling, you're not really having a relationship. You're having a relationship with the expectation of how the other person should be. So if couple can kind of like say, hey, I want this time where I can really truly connect with you. And so if in certain things that I say you may not like it, but I want to express it because it is for the good of our relationship. So the end goal is always about connecting deeper and connecting with the other person to make that explicit so that you don't feel like, oh, I'm using this time to put you down or to make you feel bad or anything like that.
Mm.
So that expectation or that goal has to be explicitly expressed and say, I'm saying this to you because I care about our relationship. And it may not be what you want to hear. It may not be something that you can accept immediately, but I just want you to be open and let's take this time to be as honest as we can with each other.
Mm.
Because that's the only way that we can help it to grow in this relationship.
Mm. Mm. Wow,
Mm.
that's an art. I almost feel like I need to write word for word what you're saying and practice it.
Yeah, it takes practice, and I think we do not really, unfortunately, we really not haven't had a lot of time to hone these skills. And so even in my practice, when I work with couple, I have to help them to paraphrase. Like they will say something, I say, okay, maybe this is what you mean, let me try and express it and tell me if it's correct.
Mm.
And then I paraphrase it for them and they say, yes, that's, and then they're like, oh, that's exactly what I mean. But they may not be able to express it in that sense, you see. And so it is an art and a skill to kind of like find some way to communicate in a way that the other person can listen. And therefore, it is a bad idea to talk when you are angry, because when you're angry, you're not thinking rationally. And so you end up saying things that maybe you do not really mean. So the best time to really engage with somebody is actually when both of you are calmer. But it
Mm.
requires discipline. It requires discipline and say, okay, I'm really angry right now, but I can't talk to you. Let's just take 5 and maybe we revisit tomorrow. And because it's important to me that you hear me and I hear you. So it is that discipline to actually say, okay, let's set a time when both of us are in better space so that we can listen to each other better.
Mm. Okay, so I'm hearing lots of words of wisdom here. I think like everybody should just listen to this replay again and write down, because I think there's a lot of points, but it really takes practice, right? Like
Yes.
I wouldn't associate the word discipline with being a couple and couples communication, but that's the word you use, having that
Mm.
discipline to set a time to have that discussion if now is not the right time. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, that's a
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
that's, I guess that's what you mean by, being a couple, being in a relationship, it takes real work.
Yes, correct. It does take real work. And then associated with discipline is delay gratification, right? I really want to lash out at you right
Mm,
now. And so I have to delay that and say, is this helpful? So you have to engage your upstairs brain, your prefrontal cortex and say, do I really want to do this right now? Is it going to give me the outcome that I want to see? So you need to be rational. You need
yeah.
to be disciplined. It does take a lot of work, but I think with more practice, it comes a bit more naturally.
Mm,
So
yeah.
yes, there is definitely hope, but it is hard work, like just thinking about it sometimes can feel quite like, oh my gosh, why do I bother? But you bother
Mm,
because you care and you want your
mm,
relationship to be flourishing, and therefore you put
mm,
in the effort. Yeah.
mm. So what are the telltale signs for a couple that will let a couple know that I think it's time for professional help?
Mm. Oh, okay. A clear sign is when you're leading parallel lives, when you're not communicating, meaning like you are together but not together. I don't really know what's going on in your life. Like there's that distance, emotional distance. So you stop confiding in each other, or you stop knowing the inner world. I use inner world because maybe when you live together, you still know what's going on in your outer world. But do I know what is truly in your mind, in your heart? Do I know what is important to you? Also, so that kind of connection, when you lose that kind of connection, actually everybody know when that happens. It's just that sometimes you say, oh, it could be a
Mm,
phase, it could if there are stresses in your life and you think that it's temporary, then okay. But if it is like more than 6 months to a year to 2 years, then it is definitely time to engage and get some help in processing those emotions, to have a facilitated conversation if you're not able to do it on your own without escalating and having a fight, you know. Yeah. So I think the key sign is when you feel lonely in the relationship.
when you feel lonely. So earlier you mentioned like the timeline is about like if it's 6 months and above, then you need to think about whether you should have professional help. Is that the timeline?
That's what I will hope so, because the longer
Mm,
you dragged on, the worse it will be. Because I mean, let me be honest with you right now. I talk about, like, you also expressed that my goal is also to create more awareness on early intervention. A lot of
mm,
time people think that my problem is not serious enough to see a therapist. And so they wait till like maybe after 5, 10 years, and then they come at the 10th year and they are like, the hearts are hardened, the resentment has built, like there's no more space in your heart to actually even trust in the other person. There's nothing much that a therapist can do at that point in time, you see, because you have accumulated too much anger, too much resentment, to the point that you shut your heart and you cannot really open it. And therefore, I always say that, you know, at the first sign of like maybe some miscommunication, I mean, you don't have to wait for your relationship to be in a bad state before you see a coach. If you have that means, I mean, and like you can afford that, I think the earlier the better, because then you can strike while the iron is hot, right? You can really do something about it when you still have positive feelings about the other person. But a lot of the couple that I see, they come in, they don't even trust each other anymore. So where do you begin in that sense, you see? And so it makes it really, really hard. And my heart breaks when I can't help them. Not because I'm not a good therapist, but simply because it's too late. So there is something called too late in getting intervention. And like if you're thinking about signing the dotted line in the divorce lawyer next week, there's nothing I can offer you if you come and see me just before that, to be honest. Yeah. So then the best time to come is when there is still hope about like making it better. And I'm very heartened because I think in recent time, there are more younger couple who are open to it. So just this week, I have somebody who come in, oh, we are not in a bad state yet, but we want to do something about it. And I would say, well done. Good for you for investing in your relationship.
So just a slight digression, because yesterday I had a chat with Andrew Al about empowering positivity in Malaysia, and the topic of mental health came up in our chat. How in Malaysia there is still a certain stigma with getting support from mental health professional. So what's your take of that for the Singapore side?
I would imagine it's similar actually, but I think there has been a lot of good work that has been done to destigmatize mental health. And I think the younger generation, the millennial, are definitely a lot more open, and I find that super encouraging. And so I do want to continue to encourage people to actually share your own experience, be open about it. And the only way to, one of the ways, or maybe not the only, one of the ways to destigmatize is to kill shame. You know, we need to kill shame in order to destigmatize it. And how do you do that? Is by openly talking about it. The more you keep a secret, the more you feel the burden, the more you feel like, okay, this is embarrassing, I don't want to talk about it. And then we keep that, not knowing that a lot of people are actually feeling the same way as well. But if you take that step forward and say, this is what I'm experiencing, and other people can connect with you and say, oh, me too. And therefore you can start a movement whereby we are open and really addressing the problem about mental health. Yeah, so mental health is really, really challenging, and it's super stressful when you're like, you have no support. But then I think that we are still along some way to go. I mean, like if we can only start with ourselves, like by talking about our own experience, by talking about our own challenges, to encourage others to also share their stories. And then I think through stories, it can be a really powerful way of like engaging other people or inviting others to open up.
So for those of you listening in, if you have any questions for Winifred, this is your golden opportunity as well. You can drop a comment and I'll be sure to ask her your questions. So in the meantime, if let's say someone has decided that their relationship needs professional help, how can they then approach this topic with their partner?
It's a major issue too. Sometimes some couples come in so late in the course of their relationship is because one partner are unwilling to come in. I think that okay, if you are married already, then maybe it's a bit late. But I would actually tell like singles, and like I would be sure to tell my daughter, my nieces, and everybody, or that maybe in the beginning you need to have a conversation around it. Would you be open to see a therapist if we run into issues in the relationship? Because I think if you do not have that agreement with each other, you ended up suffering on your own, because some problems, a lot of people think that they can solve it on their own, but you do need an external person to actually facilitate. I mean, if you do not have the skill to communicate with each other, No matter how you communicate, it's gonna be difficult. But I mean, if you're somebody who is able to read or learn and like, you know, really utilize that, internalize it, then sure, of course you can do that. I don't mean to say that you need to see or engage a coach all the time, because it is a luxury. But on your own, you must be willing, or like get your partner to also read the book together with you or talk about what is important and all. So to maybe the end goal is really to say, I truly want our relationship to be in a better place, and I want to remain in this relationship with you, and therefore it is important to have that courage and to explain that, you know, this is beyond just the
Oops.
two of us. Sorry for the
Okay.
interruption
Might have.
just now.
Oh,
Could you hear?
yes, yeah,
Yeah,
we lost you for a moment. Yes, can
yeah,
you backtrack a little
yeah,
bit? So that,
yeah. That's right. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Because
So you
I'm not sure where
mentioned.
I need to start. So I'm saying about like the importance of like having that agreement that we need to seek help when we are stuck in the relationship, and to also explain that, you know, this is beyond just the two of us. And I think the myth that many couple has is the problem that we have is just between you and I. Why would a third person be able to help us? You know,
Mm,
but if you have been circling around the issue for a long time and you are not finding solution, clearly your style is not working or your method is not working, you see. And so
mm,
one person must be able to say, you know, we keep getting stuck here, and I really wish that we can get unstuck. Let's get a help. Let's get someone to facilitate the conversation, you know. And you may
mm,
have to like really push it quite hard if it is really important to you. Yeah.
So it sounds like also, in a way, having the courage to be the first one to voice it out. I think we need professional help.
To have that courage and to have that hope. I mean, the hope is I want to remain in this relationship for as long as we can be, you see. And we need to address the problems in the relationship. And if we can't do it on our own, then let's have that courage and be willing and openness to have that growth mindset. Right? To
Mm,
have that growth mindset that we can get help, we can learn to communicate and understand each other better, you
mm,
know. Yeah.
mm. And I think also hope is infectious. It's a sort of energy that can inspire someone else. So
Yeah.
if you can impress upon your partner's heart, I guess that you still have that hope, and you want together. Let's
Mm.
have that growth mindset about our relationship. I think that will make the difference. Someone has to make the first move, I guess.
And I just to share like a quick, I mean, like something that I often recommend to all my couples is also to have the ability to see what is still good in the relationship and what's still good in each other. You know, try to remember what were the things that attracted you to each other as well, because your
Mm,
stories, there's a reason why you come together. So remembering that love story relationship is also very important, you know, to just kind of like say, oh yeah, this is what we have in common.
so using the good in the relationship and in the partner, using that to help support the relationship. Okay, let's see if Winifred comes back.
To not be shy about saying what is in your heart. So we take it and don't express it. So little
Winifred,
things actually
there
can really
for
strengthen the relationship
we
as
lost you
well.
there for I think 30
Yeah.
seconds or so.
A few minutes, is it?
Yeah, we lost you for a minute,
Okay.
I think. Yeah,
Which
so
part?
what were
Like,
you saying?
talking about gratitude. Yeah.
Okay, gratitude.
Like how it is important to also share what you appreciate about each other. Yeah. And also expressing what you appreciate about each other, to 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 remember to say thank you, to remember to apologize. You know,
Mm,
sometimes we take the person closest to us the most for granted,
for
you know.
granted. Mm,
Yeah.
mm. So earlier you mentioned about some things that you do for self-care for yourself, like having making sure that you still have me time. So how can self-care help in our relationship with our partner as well? Okay, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back. Yes, just now.
Okay.
Can you repeat the question? Because I couldn't
So,
really hear.
yes, how can self-care help in our relationship with our partner?
Oh, self-care help to help us to get clarity. When you have clarity, then you can communicate better with your partner. And therefore, in
Mm,
caring for yourself, in caring for your need, you will have to identify what is at the bottom of it. Sometimes we are just skirting the surface. We're just scratching the top of the iceberg, right? So when you have self-care, you can go deeper and you can really identify what is the underlying issues as well. Because when you're just talking about what's on the surface, the underlying problem will not go away. And
mm,
so it also requires some amount of courage to say, okay, what is exactly the issue at hand here? And what can I do about it in order to move us out of this situation? So when you to think about it, to process it, then it will help you with the connection as well. And I think in most relationship, you'll have one person who are more the reflective sort.
mm.
So the one who is the naturally more reflective will have the burden of like thinking a bit more, and then you have to think about how to communicate that in a way that the partner can be receptive. you
Mm,
know, yeah. So caring for yourself, caring for your well-being is critical, so that you don't just on what do you call it, like reacting, like react to what's going on. So self-care
mm,
helps you to pause and to really like engage in your upstairs brain so that you can be calmer and think more rationally.
mm,
When you find yourself just fighting fire or being angry all the time, it is a clear sign that you need to pause and to kind of like
mm,
just slow down and think about what is going on. I think the pace of life sometimes can be truly hectic, and that yeah, when you find yourself annoyed, be easily triggered by everything, that is a clear sign for you to really pause and have self-care.
mm. So our own emotional health,
Are we good?
noticing,
Yeah.
yes, we're good. So noticing our own emotional health also help to give clue whether, oh, I need more time out for myself to take care of my own needs first.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So Winifred, you're also trained in positive psychology. So how can we use that as
Yes.
well to support our relationship?
Okay. The big one would be to savor, like a few team from positive psychology will be like, actually gratitude will be the biggest one in
Mm,
that sense. The research has shown that couples who are high on gratitude, they are happier in the relationship. And so you want to cultivate that, like even having like rituals around it. So gratitude is one, and I think positive emotion, I talk a lot about cultivating positive emotions in your relationship. And
mm,
in that, I'm not just talking about being happy, but how do you incorporate like inspiration? How do you inspire each other to be a better version of yourself? So like cultivating inspiration in your relationship, interest, as well as like humor and amusement. Couple who have high on amusement are also better at letting go of things. You can find ways to kind of like intervene or break the maybe the high tension moment by laughing together and things like that. So positive emotion actually will help couple to thrive in the relationship. Like taking pride in each other as well. So there are 10 forms of positive emotions, right? If you can remind me, like that has been studied on, like serenity, on like pride and gratitude
mm,
and all. So these are some of the ways that you can be more intentional in cultivating it, like getting your partner to talk about topics that are of interest to you, or find out what are the interesting things that they enjoy in doing. So combining the positive side and the work by John Gottman, the
mm,
researchers who's done a lot of work in relationship. You want to enhance your love map of each other, what you know about each other as well, the inner world of their partner. What is it that make the person happy and all that. So curiosity is actually very important. And I find that even when you are fighting or when you are having a conflict, having the attitude of curiosity is helpful because you want to say, I wonder why my partner is feeling that way. I wonder why my
Mm.
partner feels so strongly about this. Why does he feel so strongly, or he or she feels so strongly about his position? Is there a story behind it? What can I learn about it? So when you have that attitude of curiosity, you will suspend yourself and say, oh, he's just making life difficult for me. He's just trying to be my, opposite, try to trigger me and all that. So when you have curiosity, you will pause and say, I want to know what is the story behind that position. So that can help you to be more open, hopefully, and be more calm in that sense. Yeah, so these are some ways that we can incorporate positive psychology into like relationship as well.
Mm.
Mm.
Quick shout out to Armand and Matthew. Thanks for joining us. Matthew, as in like our Matthew, our
Oh,
bookmark
hi,
Matthew.
Matthew. Thank you for joining us. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so
Mm.
um, I'm just wondering, is there one phrase that you can teach us? One phrase that you can teach us for a certain situation that we can start off with that sentence. At least it gets us started, and then we can continue on our own. What would be one useful phrase?
Small things often. Small things
Small,
often. Do the
small.
small things often. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that is the phrase that I often also share with my couple. Like small things often. What are the changes that you want to see? And then you do it, commit to it, and remind yourself that I do it frequently and consistently. Like for example, right? I say that maybe what I want to work on is to greet my, and some couples don't even greet each other. So like maybe the small things that I want to do is to greet each other to show my affection or something. Then you do it, you have to remind yourself small things often. I do it consistently. I don't have to like do something big. You can do your something big gestures maybe on special occasion, but consistency is actually the most important thing. Do things, be consistent in showing your love, be consistent, do the small things in expressing your thoughts, do the small thing in changing yourself, in changing how the relationship is like and all that. So don't be too overwhelmed by the big change, because small things will lead you to the bigger changes.
Mm,
Yeah.
small things offered. I like that. Just three words, easy to remember. Yeah, at the end of the day, it is the small things, right? Like you can't do the big things often, and you don't have the resources or the
Right.
energy.
Yeah.
Right, but like small things like greeting your partner.
Yeah, or even like giving a hug and things like that. So yeah, what are the small things that you can do today for your partner?
Okay, so thank you for sharing so much with us. What is one final advice that you would like to give to couples?
Mm. I would say that to remember your dreams, what's the dreams that you have when you come together. Because when you lose that vision, it is very easy to give up. But when you are focused on the dreams that you have when you come together, and I think that dreams also evolve, like when you have kids or when you grow older and the changes in your career. But if you need to often communicate that, so have that dreams that you have in mind. So continue to pursue it, like make investment in the area that can help you to reach your dreams. Yeah, don't forget that dreams.
Wow, couples dream. That's interesting.
Hmm.
Hmm. You have triggered some thoughts in me as well. Thank you so much, Winifred, for joining in on this show, giving us a valuable feedback, advice, especially in a time like this. I think everyone should be able to find one or two useful things that you can immediately act on today. Like, what is the one
Mm.
small thing you can do for or with or
Mm.
to your partner today? Okay, so I think at the end of the day, I guess the responsibility really lies with ourselves, and it begins with us. And the small things matters: gratitude, growth mindset, having the courage, taking care of ourselves, looking out for the early signs where we need professional help to be
Yes. Yeah.
brave enough to be the one who bring it up. Not easy,
Mhm.
as we have realized in today's chat, but it is so worth the while. I mean, that is why you're with
Mm.
your partner in the first place. Remember the good things about your relationship and about your partner. So I guess also remember the good things about yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Very good summary, Joy.
Okay, yeah, okay. So,
Yeah.
okay, thank you, Winifred. So, this is where we are going to end off, and this is our sign off for all our listeners. This is our sign off message for you. In strengths, we
Strengths will
activate joy. Till the
activate
next
joy.
show. Take care, all.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.